Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some and or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have the majors moving up as traders are calling the bottom. Bitcoin's up 4%, ETH's up 2%, and Solana is up 4% too. Got some bigger thoughts on that in just a little bit. Number two, OG crypto funds Pantera and ParaFi buy FTX's Metaplex tokens. A little bit of a deep dive coming on that as well. And finally, MACHI token is a 2x for pre-sale buyers. Love to hear it. 5 million market cap pre-sale, 9.2 million market cap currently. Hope you participated. And we've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs, and some discussion on stablecoins, how they could be an enemy to the crypto ethos. Stay tuned for that. Today we have Legendary in the co-host seat, and we're ready to get into it in just a little bit. But before we do that, just a reminder, friends, that nothing that we say here is financial or any other type of advice, because this market is incredibly risky and we don't know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Tuesday. It is the 10th of September. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
And GM doing pretty well. Feels good to have a headline that says the market is up. It's been a while. I mean, we're not in a bear market, obviously, but this sideways chopping it's a bit annoying sometimes. So it's funny, or it's good to see a headline that says the majors are up. NFTs are looking pretty interesting today. Can't wait to get into that. So I'm in a good mood.
Do you think you enjoy the market being up more or less than you like writing the headline? Like, is the act of writing the headline that we're up any more enjoyable than
No,
the
that's such a
underlying
good
fact
question.
that the market is up?
No, that's such a good question. It's the opposite. I love to prompt the AI to be like, the market's crashing, nuking, exploding volcanoes, thunderstorms, catastrophes. It's more fun to prompt the negative images.
And are you finding, right, so you're not even talking about that writing the headlines themselves, you just like doing that very, very small bit of the thumbnail that goes on our YouTube thing. That's like the key thing that you're enjoying each morning. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
As long as there's some type of catastrophe.
exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. But also with that, Grok has gotten way, way better at that.
Ooh,
I've
okay.
seen a couple of reviews on Grok also in terms of other things,
Okay.
in terms of
What's
biology.
it good at then?
In terms of science, processing, medicine, biology, like
Hmm.
there's like basically partial scores for those disciplines and domains, and in those domains it's already better than ChatGPT. Claude is doing way, way better with the recently updated version. So it's not only ChatGPT any longer. The competition has been catching up pretty quickly. Also impressive that Elon Musk managed to set up basically now the biggest GPU cluster to train Grok in, I don't know, like 6 months.
Mm.
And that's always fun because I like to, run it through Midjourney, ChatGPT, and Grok, and like see differences in how images are created. And that's basically also part of that process that I enjoy.
That's pretty fun. Do you think then, because obviously at one point in time it was useful to pay for ChatGPT because it, like, the servers couldn't handle it, and if you paid, you'd get the guaranteed access. I'm still currently paying. Obviously, these things move very fast, and you mentioned a bunch of other alternatives which are apparently getting better. Are you still paying for it? Do you think we don't need to pay for it anymore? I've got a feeling I can get rid of that subscription, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm still paying for it, to be honest, but I think the basic 4 model that you now get with the basic subscription, with the free tier, is more than sufficient for most things. The contextual memory, I feel, of ChatGPT is still better than Grok. You can have longer and more and deeper conversations for sure. And definitely the 4.0 model is great, but if you don't use the multimodal thing by uploading pictures, text, having it plot things, I think it's actually a good reminder to, save those, what is it, $20 a month, and just use the free tier. Also, given the fact that for Grok, to use Grok, we have the premium plus X subscription that's 200 a year or something like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
definitely a bit of redundancy there.
Talking of deep conversations, before we get into the headlines, before we get into the price action and all of the interesting discussion points for today, what's the deepest conversation you've had with one of these AI agents? And who did you choose? Did you choose Claude? Did you choose Grok? Who are you chatting to? Your most intimate dilemmas, Legendary.
Oh, that's a great question too. It was Pi. I think we talked about Pi on the show.
Oh, yeah, I remember you got me on the Pi one.
Yeah, and with Pi, basically, you have like this, fluent verbal conversation talking into your phone. And I had a situation going on with another company of mine, and I wasn't like sure how to go about it. And I basically went through the convo with Pi once and told it what I wanted to do, and asked it to be like my sparring partner and kind of prepare me for the worst case in that convo. And it did pretty well at that.
I actually I can kind of back that up. There was I can't remember what kind of deal that I was doing with someone. It was like a token deal potentially, and I basically wanted, as you said, the key thing for me was like a sparring partner. It was like how tell me if this deal is good, and I was like explaining some of the context, explaining what I was offering, what they were offering, and we had a really good back and forth on like whether or not I should do this deal that I was going to do. So we're always trying to figure out how we can leverage the technology to make it work for us in better, more efficient ways. And I think I'm kind of liking that use case at the moment. So enjoying that from that perspective. But let's keep it moving. Oh, Kusho, your hand is raised. Welcome to the stage, my friend. Give us a little take on these AI agents, maybe how you're using it before we hit the main headlines today.
Yeah, I just wanted to drop in because I've been using Claude a lot in my daily life nowadays. Started paying for it while I was in Canada. I'm back in Nigeria. I use it basically. So this is the thing that I did recently, and it was really interesting because the result was astonishing.
Okay.
I Claude the white paper for Wayfinder, and then we had this long back and forth conversation about the possible implications, possible use cases, ways that you could adopt it or use it in your daily life. And it was great because eventually we had this other discussion where we then took the things that were inside the conversation and made like a static web page and made it in like a blog style format, gave it some of the branding elements of Wayfinder, and it put together this really amazing static website that had everything that encompassed that conversation. So for the DJs out there, you could probably use some of these AI agents to simplify a lot of white papers, have conversations about your ideas to better understand those white papers. And that would really help for your research and content and stuff.
Damn, that sounds pretty exciting. Just Stefano in the YouTube comment says, I'm building a DeFi AI agent. You guys bullish on this? I don't know. It sounds like what Kusho is just describing would be of great help when trying to attempt anything like that. So appreciate your insight, Kusho. Stick around for the rest of the show. We're going to get into some all the headlines and the price action. As always, let's start it off now with some price action first. We have a green day in the markets. We've got Bitcoin up 3.5% to 57.2K. We've got ETH up 1.5% to 2.3K. And we've got Solana up more than 4% to $135. In terms of the headlines themselves, we've got majors moving up as certain traders calling a bottom yesterday. We're going to speak about that in just a little bit, along with a bit of a bigger discussion on how to allocate today, because that's what I'm thinking quite a lot about at the moment. Number two, OG crypto funds, Pantera and ParaFi by FTX's Metaplex token, which is a Sol protocol which has facilitated 550 million NFT mints. So we'll provide a little bit of the details there and explain what Metaplex is if you are unfamiliar. And then finally, the MACHI token is a 2x for pre-sale buyers, $5 million market cap pre-sale, $9.2 million market cap currently. Legendary is going to do a little bit of a breakdown on what exactly that is, because I've noticed a bit of confusion / lack of research when it comes to how baseline markets actually works and what that is. A few notable sales, big CryptoPunk sales yesterday. CryptoPunk zombie hoodie sold for 550 ETH. CryptoPunk 3D glasses hoodie sold for 300 ETH. And a big beard CryptoPunk sold for 53 ETH. So, the top, very, very top tier ones moving at a huge premium, as well as just like some of the more desirable ones selling for much more above the floor too. Legendary, let's head over to our NFT marketplace partner, Mintify, to hear what else is going on in the NFT market.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Quite an interesting day in terms of JPEGs. Apes are down a touch, down 2%. 11.96 ETH floor, so still fighting to reclaim the 12 ETH floor. Azuki is actually one day where I can't call them a stable coin. They're up 3%, back at a 4.77 ETH floor over the last day. Pudgies are up as well, up a bit more, 4%, 10.8 ETH floor. Ladies have their first green day in a while, 5% up, 3.44 ETH floor. That happened off a lot of volume, almost 100 ETH volume in the collection over the last 24 hours. Basically managed to regain all of its losses from the last 7 days. So the 7-day chart is flat now, so to speak. Captain's collection we didn't touch on in quite a while are up 6% on the day, 2.14 ETH floor.
Nice.
A lot of green in those smaller to mid-range collections as well. Kanpai Pandas up another 11%, totally managing to almost reclaim that 0.6 ETH floor and up 45% over the last 7 days.
That's crazy. Does that mean we think that Icebags is not guilty? Is this the insider trading that he is not guilty of rugging anyone when it came to that Donald Trump coin? Is that what we're thinking?
Either that or a lot of time has passed, a lot of time for, for the crypto space, for the crypto perspective.
What, 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's a lot of time.
Okay.
But the trend goes on, right? Remilio's up 5% as well. So basically doing what Miletis are doing, 0.85 ETH floor. Dgo's up 6%, haven't mentioned them in a while, 1.47 ETH floor. And saving the best for the last, Doodles are up an amazing 20% over the last 24 hours, 2.06 ETH floor. They also dropped a couple of days ago, I think it was Friday last week, that song with Lil Wayne, Lil Yachty, and Pharrell, and obviously featuring Doodles in caps lock. I think I saw a lot of people posting that, and I see Austin requesting as well from Doodles in the audience. Bring him up on stage. But I saw a lot of people talking about that in the timeline. I think Austin had a post up saying that it reached what was it, million views in 16-ish hours. Gonna play a couple of seconds of the song real quick before we get a copyright strike, and then I think we can pass it straight to Austin to hear from him as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do it.
They say like some bitch, I'm just waiting to meet it. I take on dates, I'm a keeper. I take on dates, I'm a lover. I'm gonna treat her like she is my own. I'm gonna treat her like there's no other. Hold me, can't let them.
Gonna pause it there for copyright reason.
Love it. Also love it how I don't know if these little doodle segments are never prepared, but as soon as we're talking about doodles, it's like Austin's ears start like getting ready. He's just on like absolutely ready on the button to go.
He has an eye for that, and as soon as he hears doodles are being mentioned in the show, he gets a prompt on his phone and auto joins the spaces. This has to be the way it works.
It wasn't even in the snapshot though. We just started talking about it. Absolutely love it. Austin, welcome to the stage, my friend. How are you doing? You must be super excited about how, look, forget the floor price for a second, the stuff that you've been able to achieve. I wanted to give you a chance to maybe speak to like what was happening over the weekend and maybe put that in context for us.
So, if you say Doodles 3 times, I will magically appear every time.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's great to be on, guys. Yeah, this weekend was we've been calling it the end of the beginning. I think when a lot of people joined Doodles, myself included, this was like one of the very big milestones that we hoped one day in the future would happen. The idea that we would be premiering a film at a major film festival in front of the entire entertainment industry, and we would have music titans there and film and streaming all in one room with our community hand in hand was definitely the vision. And to see that realized after so much hard work, it was really special. And to have our community front and center and coming from all over the world to enjoy it and not only enjoy it, but be a part of it was definitely a highlight of my career. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been great to see the timeline jump on it as well. I think we'll have a lot more to say in the coming weeks. We're certainly not even close to being done with this go to market.
Sure.
Plenty more to come, but yeah, it was a great moment.
That sounds awesome, man. As you said, the timeline like really responded so positively to it. So many like energizing and positive messages, and a lot of pride. A lot of pride. I think not just from the Doodles community, for people who are like happy to be specifically involved, but also like wider praise from the rest of the NFT community. Kind of proud of what you guys have been able to achieve. So I thought that was really cool. I wanted to ask you about this tweet that Julian put out. I had this bookmarked because I thought it was an important one to discuss. So it's great to be able to discuss it with you today. He said, here's the thing. Doodles isn't going to be the next great entertainment brand. We already are. I'm not sure if you all realize how significant the Dullsville and the Doodleverse premiere was. It was the most important event in the history of Web3 native IP. There were heads of the biggest film studios in the world there, the most important people in entertainment, the people that finance every single thing you watch on TV or in theaters. They weren't just watching the film, they were experiencing firsthand what a Web3 community is. They told me they had no idea this is what we were and asked how we did it in such a short amount of time. There were actors from your favorite franchises there, blown away by what they were seeing. We're being covered in all the major entertainment press outlets as a peer, not an outsider. You wanted to know how adoption works. This is it. I just thought this was such a powerful tweet, like a plus tweet from Julian, just really going at it and putting this into context. I wanted to give you a chance to maybe speak to that because it kind of got me going, to be honest, got me excited. How do you kind of put that in context, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, bang on from Julian. I think we have typically been the ones to keep our heads down and just do the work, but also recognizing that this is a really big deal and it needs proper context, I think, for a lot of people who may not be familiar with how the entertainment industry works or how big of a deal it is to be at a place like Toronto Film Festival. And this is what we all talked about when we got into NFTs, the idea that we would be toe to toe with Titans and be there on our own terms. You know, when Doodles first started in the bull run of 21, the team went out and talked to all the major studios and streaming services and did the rounds. And, you know, it was very much like, yeah, we could do a development deal. But if we wanted to be taken seriously, you know, we had to come back on our own terms. And this was that moment where we wanted for nothing. We had our entire community there. We had a very clear business model, operating model that works without needing anything from anyone, which is a massive deal. And you know what's been really great in the feedback that we've gotten from those same executives now is that they've never seen anything like this. Like you know, when you have a new IP that you bring to market, it represents a massive risk for these studios, right? Like there are huge marketing budgets that they have to take in. They have to see if people are even going to like it. It's really, really hard for them to break through, and they often just don't take any risk. I was literally the day I was heading to Toronto, this like really big entertainment newsletter called Puck wrote this like long essay on how studios are not doing any of their own development anymore. It's something like 80% of all development is actually outsourced. So they're working with like outside agencies, and a large part of that is because like they don't want to take any risk. And the basic like underlying theme of that article was development is where the opportunity is in entertainment. And that is, I sent that to Julian. It was like, it's literally what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're fully vertically integrated as an entertainment company, and it's not that like we're the next big one. Like we're here, like we're already doing these things. We're having conversations with these media titans already. So and the follow-up has really validated that. I mean, I think at one point Pharrell had told Julian, you know, after the event, like things like this just don't exist. You know, a community like it was his first time seeing it like in person. He's like, you guys are Taylor Swift and you don't even know it yet. And so people are starting to pay attention.
That's so fun, man. That's really, really awesome to hear. And amazing insight. Maybe a final question before we get into the kind of other discussion points for today and the headlines as usual. You mentioned all these like industry titans, a lot of famous people there. Do you want to maybe name drop a few? Who are you most excited to meet? Was there anyone that you were super excited to meet in particular? Who was like someone maybe you didn't expect to be there and they came through as well? Yeah, give us a bit more juice.
So I know Julian's answer because it was great. Well, one, not famous people, but my parents were there, and that is
Amazing.
like an all-time moment for me. Like they got to walk the pink carpet, they got to meet a bunch of holders. It like filled my heart with so much
They
joy.
finally understood what you do.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a really, really special moment. But after the premiere, I finally like went up because Julian and I and everyone else were just running around the whole time talking to everyone. And so I got to like catch up with him for a bit. And he, if you know anything about Julian, is the biggest Marvel fan I know, and I think I know a decent amount of Marvel fans. Like I bought him this like Inside Baseball book that's like all about like the inner workings of the House of Marvel. That's like how like deep he is into it.
Nice.
And the first person he mentions that he talked to, he's like, dude, Anthony Mackie was here. Like Captain America was here, and he was talking to him. He's like fully bought in on Doodles. He stayed for 2 hours. He watched the full premiere. So that was like a really, really special moment. But yeah, and then I was just jumping. It wouldn't be like famous people that people necessarily like know, but a lot of like film financing executives, music executives that were just like blown away at not only the content itself, but the way in which like the community showed up. It's just, this thing doesn't exist. So yeah, it was really special.
Love it, man. That's a really, really special moment for all of you. And I think I speak for everyone when we say like legit, it wasn't just the Doodles people that are kind of proud of what you guys have been able to achieve. I think you're representing the whole community really, really well. So thanks for jumping up and kind of giving that insight today, Austin.
Of course.
Right. So we're going to keep it moving. If you want to hang around, Austin, get your takes on the rest of the market stuff. We'll be continuing to go through them. Please do stick around. Let's get into the discussion point for today. Legendary was this thing that I saw, and this kind of got me a bit worried, if I'm being completely honest. It's something that I've been thinking about for a while. It's kind of articulated again for the second time. Mert shared this, which was this question: are centralized stables low-key accelerating finance to become more surveillance-based, or have I gone full tinfoil? And then the kind of second tweet, which was shared beneath this, was from Danger, who actually writes a great DeFi newsletter. This is the DeFi newsletter I was talking about the other day. Said, kind of feels like USDC is going to be one of those things that seems great right now, and then a few years later comes back to bite the industry in its deeply USDC entrenched ass, like Tether, but 100x worse because the issuers are feds. Legendary, what do you think about this take? Have you thought about this much? It's something I've thought about a reasonable amount. But yeah, want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, actually, I had a convo on that with Ignas, great DeFi researcher, this morning, who had put out this post 2 hours ago. I'm going to bring it up on the screen for people watching us on video or on YouTube. And he's saying, why is USDC supply decreasing? USDC total supply dropped from 55 bill to 35 bill, yet USDT, so Tether, pumped from 84 to 120 bill. What's behind the shift? Major structural changes are happening, and it's weird that it isn't discussed more on X. So
was this post just from today?
2 hours ago, yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, very topical.
And he's also saying possible explanation was offered by Nick Carter a year ago. I'm going to go into that in a second. US policymakers have successfully pushed investors out of onshore, regulated stables into offshore, unregulated stables. If this is still true, a pro-crypto government in the US would be extremely bullish. Also, Ignas goes on to say that it's his impression that the old crypto X-Guard would have discussed this topic more seriously, and it's a bit of a side note on the timeline, to put it like that.
I think that's
that's his worry with that. And the post by Nick Carter that he referenced is saying, it's a year old, I think. Yes, it's from June last year, so keep that in mind for context. US crypto policy in one chart. Since January the 1st, 2023, USDT supply, so Tether, is up and USDC supply is down. Tether up 16 and USDC down 14 bill. US policymakers, as we said, have managed to push investors out of onshore. And that is basically his thinking on what's going on with the stablecoin market and with the stablecoin dominance. And I find it a bit worrying as well from the perspective that I feel like we talked on the show quite a lot about how stablecoin competition is increasing, how we have PayPal stepping up their game and coming with PYUSD, how we see Nika pushing stablecoin competition as well to be regulated in Europe and to have reserves with European banks as one of the many criteria that need to be applied. We're seeing, I think it's Circle, pushing for a stablecoin pegged by Dirham in the UAE.
Yes.
So with all the
Tether, I think, are doing that one.
Tether, sorry, yeah, you're absolutely right. So with all the stablecoin competition going on, it's still interesting to see that the Tether dominance is nonetheless increasing.
So I guess if I'm trying to summarize the sharing of your information there, it's kind of just backing up this maybe fear of extreme centralization in the US stablecoin industry, or the Western stablecoin, and that's why people might feel more safe in an alternative stablecoin, maybe partly because of the weaponization of the dollar, maybe in the last couple of years. I'm thinking out loud here, trying to think why that would be the case. That's what I would probably go to. I think there's probably a so I mean, there's two parts to this for me. There's the international aspect, which is you can see how maybe on an international level, certain countries would not want their dollars to be issued by a US controlled entity. If the US is going to pursue this type of path where they weaponize the dollar and maybe are freezing assets of people for whatever reason. And that's not saying whether the freezing of assets is, well, I think it's challenging to think that that's right, but it's, so there's that international aspect. But then even on a national aspect for US citizens, I guess when this money can just get maybe turned off at any point in time, that's why I think so many people are against the idea of the CBDC. Obviously, the USDC is not the CBDC, and many people are kind of against that. But maybe people's brains are going in that direction where it's like, look, we still want cash, we still want the dollars, because at least no one can take that away from us on some level. So I'm seeing this through the perspective of there's the international reason to maybe stay clear of USDC. And then there's maybe even a national reason, depending on what route people take with the CBDC. And I think that's not clear yet. But if USDC becomes like a de facto CBDC, maybe that's the concern. I'm just airing a few thoughts here on this, thinking about this live. Funky, your hand is raised. I know you think about this stuff a lot too. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Is USDC going to be something which we think is great now? It's great for adoption. It's getting the money moving. People like it a lot. We all like it a lot. But is that something that's going to be problematic at some point in the future, in your opinion?
GM fam, I honestly, as a pragmatist, no, I don't think it's a problem. So I'll just preface that by saying, for me personally, I really don't care. I think late 2020, early 21, when I was still trading equities and, but doing a lot of crypto stuff, I had said to people, and I still think that this is potentially true, and you were just referencing it, that USDC will become sort of the de facto CBDC, because why would the government, which, in any bureaucracy, like can't get out of its own way, create a very inefficient system that's going to take forever when they could just effectively have all these payment rails already there for USDC and just make that the CBDC of choice, if you will. We've already known about this issue of them having the ability to freeze funds. This is something that's been known. People called this out, a long time ago, a couple years ago, that Circle has this power. I think if you're doing, like your average transactions, if you're an average crypto user, I don't think you have anything to fear. It's probably just more of those people who are engaging in illicit activities and they get busted for AML or something like that, and then they then are frozen. I see that. But this is also why, in the same breath, I appreciate a protocol like Liquidity Finance, because their LUSD is probably the only true decentralized stablecoin. It's much in the same vein as MakerDAO when it originally started, where DAI was only able to be minted off over collateralized ETH. And Liquidity, when it launched, I think in 2020, it was an immutable protocol. They launched it to where it can't be changed. There's no governance. There's no voting. This is the only way it runs. And the only thing you can do is deposit ETH. And then, of course, you have to deal with the volatility of ETH. But then you get this LUSD, which is a truly decentralized stablecoin. Now, that's difficult, obviously, to scale up from there because you need to have the ETH coming into the system to print the LUSD. But that is an option out there that people don't maybe realize that is a true decentralized stablecoin. MakerDAO's had a lot of changes, as we've known and talked about recently on the show. But personally, I don't really worry about USDC. It's still my stable of choice. It's easy to move, especially as a Coinbase user, to get off onto any other network practically, and just do it for free, and then get into some other network and move it around from there. So I don't really have these concerns on a personal level, but I can understand why some people are, worried about governmental overreach and everything else, and partnering up with Circle and saying, no, we're just going to freeze your funds for whatever reason.
Appreciate the thoughts, Funky. Legendary, I know you want to come in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said it's Funky with the origins of DAI and its ETH backing. And I think ultimately, if you want a truly decentralized stable in the future, I would love to see something that's purely backed by BTC and is basically staying within our ecosystem, but that obviously needs years and years until there's less volatility in the market, and it's a stable coin that where you can trust its reserves and don't need to be afraid that they plunge 30% in a day or whatever. Just in terms of the USDC freezing though, because so many people bring that up, I feel like sometimes the timeline is forgetting that Tether can do the same thing and has done the same thing before. Just adding, this is the last report that I found by Tether. It dates October 2023, saying that to date, Tether has aided 31 agencies worldwide with investigations across 19 jurisdictions, freezing a total of 835 million in assets, mostly associated with theft. They have worked with Singapore, Philippines, Germany, South Korea, Norway, Poland, Switzerland, Greece, Canada, Croatia, Italy, Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Cayman Islands, China, Netherlands, El Salvador, Germany is twice in the list. Interesting. Hong Kong, India, Ireland, Israel, Kyrgyzstan, New Zealand, Spain, Taiwan, UK, Ukraine, Estonia, the United States, and Israel. So if you're worried about USDC being basically freezing funds because the US government wants to do that, Tether has done that in the past with more than 30 countries that we just went through that list. So it's not a Circle or USDC exclusive worry to have.
Fantastic. That's such a useful bit of context, Legendary, because I think one of the things that happens, as usual, is that narratives can take hold in this space, and sometimes we're just not aware of the other side, which is either very, there's just clearly additional context which sometimes gets required to overpower whatever narrative that people are pushing about one particular thing. And I think in this instance, people are more concerned about, I think people think USDT is just like the stable coin of that's completely free. It's the stable coin of choice for criminals out somewhere far away. And look, that is clearly not the case if those reports are to be accurate. Probably need to do a whole bunch more investigation into that to be like completely concretely certain on kind of the extent to which that stuff gets sorted out. But the stablecoin debate is a bigger one. Obviously, you've got things like Athena's stablecoin recently, which is another interesting option. And it's a conversation I wanted to bring up today because I'm thinking about it a lot, but it's one we'll continue. So wanted to bring that up. Hope that was interesting. People to get a sense of how people are thinking about stablecoins. Might make sense to go into the first headline today, which is that the majors are up, because it's very much connected with Coinbase as well. So the majors up in general. Bitcoin's up 3% to 57K. ETH's up 1.5% to 2.3. Solana's up 4%. The reason why I think this is connected to the previous one is because I was thinking in the last few days, like the thing that I would like to place the bet most on in some way is just that stablecoin numbers go up over time. Like, you know, every time you're betting on a chain like ETH, there'll always be competition. It's like ETH or Solana, Solana or Avalanche, Bitcoin or whatever. And I appreciate Bitcoin is maybe slightly separate to the rest because it's got a slightly different value prop, but there's plenty of competition all the time when it comes to those things. The broad bet I would love to be able to make is total number of stablecoins go up over time. People move on chain, whether that's in ETH, Bitcoin, stablecoins, or whatever. People move on chain. And when we spoke about this the other day, because we have spoken about it before, two conclusions came to be. The first was that, you know, just buying some Bitcoin is a good bet on that, because as more money flows on chain, it's likely that a proportion of that moves to the top asset. So I think that is reasonable. But the second point that we seem to conclude on is that Coinbase, with the increasing amounts of USDC on chain and seemingly becoming the de facto place for all ETFs to be custodied, have a very, very close relationship with Circle, who issue USDC. Remember, we reported the other day when we looked at the Coinbase, was it the earnings call or some type of call that they did? But they specifically have a commercial relationship with Circle to make sure that that is the stable coin that will be kind of pushed forward the most on Coinbase's platform. And I was just thinking about Coinbase stock here. I was looking at the Coinbase chart in the last, where have we got it here? It should be here somewhere. Can't find it at the moment. But thinking about the Coinbase stock itself, I was like, is this the way for me to bet on ETH? Like, I was actually thinking yesterday, ETH seems to be getting dumped to oblivion over and over again in various ways. Super bullish on lots of the stuff that's going on ETH. One of the challenges with ETH, obviously, that is very well documented at the moment, is that there's this huge narrative problem and there's a huge battle between L1s and L2s. L2s are, in practice, taking a lot of the value which would have usually accrued to ETH mainnet in the way of fees, and L2s are kind of capturing that value. Look, on some way that's good because it's good for ETH being the base currency across all these L2s, but in some ways it's like, well, this is decreasing the amount that ETH is making, decreasing the amount of burn. So in a way, if you wanted to bet on ETH being the block, and the obviously the counter to this is everyone says, well, ETH will be the place where all these people are going to build. So okay, but if the currency itself, if the underlying token itself is not getting bid and the fees are going elsewhere, maybe the way to bet on this is just a straight bet on Coinbase. This is some of the thoughts I was having the last few days. Legendary, would love to kind of hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I very much love your train of thought on that. I think basically, because it's a pretty complex thing, right? But basically, that reduction to, if you're bullish on ETH and you buy Coinbase as a proxy, I think is a hypothesis that that works and that a lot of people are following. I mean, even if the chart year to date is maybe not the strongest, it's, where is it? Year to date, we up 5%. I think it's mostly due to the decline that we've seen over the last weeks or so. But it's definitely an interesting bet from the perspective that, you know, now we're talking a lot about this war between L1, L2s, and L1, and how is attention flowing. Brett is obviously doing a lot of research on that and saying the marginal user is coming to the L2, is not coming to the L1. So L2 are not necessarily parasites by definition. However, my main point is that, you know, this is the topic now, the L2 war, and that might look completely different in a year or two. And Coinbase just has the means and resources to be relevant in whatever the arena is that we're competing right now as the main narrative for blockchain and for the Ethereum ecosystem. Admittedly, they did fail their marketplace, the NFT marketplace, in the last cycle. I also feel like they learned a lot from that and are doing way better with Base and Base Sum and everything that goes into building and scaling that L2. So I do think that, you know, it can be a good proxy for being bullish on ETH, being bullish on Coinbase.
Base is a monster. Like Base as an L2, just as a as a, how would you describe it? The commercial / corporate machine of Base and the power that Coinbase is able to put behind it and maybe attract more like the best apps to build there. I think it's got a really nice flywheel at the moment. It's just very, very powerful to me. But I guess my point is a lot of that value is getting captured by Base and Coinbase. And I just wonder, is ETH going to see the value from not only Base capturing all of this value by building out really impressively on ETH, but there'll be other L2s that do a really great job when it comes to that kind of thing too. So that's me thinking out loud, because I'm just thinking I'm holding too much ETH versus some of this stuff. And remember, the landscape's just always shifting, and that's why it's important to review your positions every now and again, or at least that's how I'm thinking about it, because I don't know if people foresaw this battle between L1 and L2s. In fact, I had this really funny thing that I think I was prepped to talk to this last week, but we didn't get a chance to do it. One of the things that everyone should always be aware of is how, look, there's a lot of smart people on the timeline. There's a lot of smart people building a lot of smart things. And sometimes it would be easy to default just to trust them, including ourselves. I don't know what people's opinions are of ourselves. Maybe what I just said sounded kind of smart and you might think, oh, cool, let me sell all my Ether base for Coinbase stock. But you have to not do that, because it's completely reasonable for smart people to be so far off in their estimations. And we found this example, I found this example last week when Kobe actually shared what the ETH Foundation, or some of the researchers at the ETH Foundation, had predicted for when they made some of the upgrades to ETH. So they had actually predicted, and this is the tweet that Kobe shared, and I was, with my sleuthing, watching Kobe's comments, this is what they had predicted initially. Justin Drake had tweeted on April the 19th in 2021, staking rewards will likely to at least 2x with EVM gas fees. I expect around 25% staking APR immediately after the merge. Remember, the merge was a huge deal. It was, technological breakthrough for sure. But the idea was more rewards, more staking, more economic security. But that was completely wrong, right? Staking rewards for ETH right now is what, in the region of 3% or something maximum, in that region or something like that. So sometimes people are building for years with this specific vision of something happening, and then it just transpires that we're magnitudes off here, guys. And I'm not, who knows, maybe there's other tweets, maybe there's other essays. This is just the one tweet that was taken, and maybe it's being taken out of context. But what I'm reading is it's saying, I expect 25% staking APR immediately after the merge. And it's look, that is a million miles off. And if that's a million miles off, how many other things are people a million miles off, either independently or as a consequence of this? Because obviously a lot of the things that would have been built on, with this assumption in mind, potentially. So I think that's just an important thing to think about, where it's look, L2s have been built in the way that they've been built now. The incentives, were the incentives completely considered at that point in time? I don't think it's playing out the way that people would have liked. There's not enough activity on mainnet, at least not yet. Maybe the estimation is that, look, there's going to be more in the future, and L2s need to scale really, really aggressively, and maybe that makes up for it. But I just thought it was important to make that point. Sometimes people can be so far off, and sometimes some super smart people can be really, really far off when it comes to this. So that's my reflection there, Legendary. Any final thoughts before we keep it moving?
Yeah, humankind has always been terrible at predicting the future. Look at IBM in the 60s saying there's not the need for more than just a handful of computers in the world. Same with, I don't know, was it the 20s or 30s when it was when cars started to become a bit more popular, and then there was the same thing said. There's just not going to be that many professional drivers around the world, so hence we're not going to have lots of cars that are going to be produced. We are terrible at predicting the future. But we still managed to evolve and build cool new stuff. So I'm not too worried about predictions being off.
Well, not too worried about predictions being off so long as I'm allocated in the right way. And so that's That's why I thought it was important to have that conversation today. Just sharing some thoughts out loud. We'd love any other thoughts in the comments if you have any. That's just one of the ways I'm kind of thinking at the moment. Look, let's keep it moving. Let's get to the Web3 Roundup to get you up to speed with everything else that's been happening in space in the last 24 hours before we hit the final headline of today. Number one, we have the Spanish and European banking giant BBVA launching USDC. Surprise, surprise, custody and rails for institutional customers. Drip Labs raises $8 million raised to build collectible platforms. This is the one on Solana, which is pretty popular amongst creators. Lending titan Aave announces deployment of dedicated ETHFi market for wrapped EtherFi ETH. Orange Cap Games announces $2 million pre-seed angel round to build Vibes, the game featuring the Pudgy Penguins IP. That's pretty exciting. I'm a pretty happy investor over there. Rug Radio announces Myriad, the digital media ecosystem and prediction market. That sounds pretty exciting. I didn't get too many details or kind of the kind of specific details there. Interested to see how they build that out. A16Z announces 21 startups selected to join the Crypto Startup Accelerator 2024 cohort, who will all receive 500K investment each. That's pretty exciting. And then finally, huge trader MACHI reported to be down $16 million on friend buys. That is pretty savage. Would not wish that on my worst enemy. Final headline for today. Maybe we'll try and do both of these. A quick one here on Metaplex Legendary, which is, how would we describe this? Metaplex is powering the digital asset economy on Solana. It is the, I'm going to share my screen here. It's in their own words, it's the trusted standard for NFTs and tokens on Solana used by thousands of applications, developers and communities. But the big actual news today was that Pantera and ParaFi, two kind of OG funds, have bought FTX's Metaplex tokens. So that's a pretty big buy. They said Metaplex is a Solana-based protocol that supports the creation of digital assets. Since launching in 2021, Metaplex claims its platform has facilitated the minting of over 550 million assets across 55 million unique wallets. So very, very important infrastructure on the Solana side for the minting of NFTs. I actually looked at the token Legendary and I thought it looked pretty good. Have a look at this. So this is a token which actually came to market in October 2022, or roughly around then, maybe September or so. And the interesting thing about this, I was like, is this looking into the future for a lot of the tokens that have launched in the last 6 months? So if you're not, remember, we're live on YouTube, we're live on X video as well, if you want to watch the screens that we're talking about. But just for a quick explainer for the people who are just listening, this token came out at like 0.6 cents. And it went rapidly down to as low as 5 cents. So that is a colossal decrease in value over a 3-month period to around January 23. And then it kind of trended there for January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, coming into 2024. And I can only guess, this is my kind of open question, Ledger. We don't know the tokenomics of this, but my guess is, look, aggressive selling from investors up until this point doesn't look like, if I'm looking at this chart, I can only assume that there was probably not a cliff for these initial investors based on the aggressive amount of selling at the beginning. And then, you know, once we came into 2024, it went up quite aggressively, big drawdown, and now kind of moving up quite nicely towards the 30-cent region. It's actually, looking at this, the market cap is, well, I think this probably tells the story. The market cap is 266 million, fully diluted valuation is 270. So if I'm reading that right, Legendary, this means that this is basically, all the tokens are basically on the market at this point. 983 million of the tokens are on the market. Total supply is 1 billion. So more or less fully circulating now. And I've been reading a lot about how, you know, to properly make money in this market now, given that there's so many tokens coming to market, people are going to have to be a bit better with liquid funds. Like if you, the funds that are active on the liquid side, and what that means is when you're not tying yourself up in angel rounds and having to wait for your cliff and your vesting for ages and ages, like there's actually more activity and more opportunity on the liquid side as tokens kind of become fully diluted and completely circulating. So that was the kind of idea I wanted to share today, looking at this chart, and just wondering, like, do you think this is a look into the future for some of these tokens that have, for us, been down only because they've only been out for 3 or 4 months, but could have some potential in the future? What are you thinking here?
I'm thinking that if I share the Solana chart, it's basically the same pattern. You have the FTX and it's flattened and recovered. So I think it's basically doing what the Solana token has did, and the token has survived this period, which kudos to them. A lot of other tokens didn't, but it's basically mirroring the Solana performance. That would be my take on that.
Fair enough. I think that's actually a great take. I suspect the tokens that are, look, maybe this is just a thesis to test or a hypothesis. The tokens that are good will maybe track Solana in some way. The tokens that are bad will just be forgotten about and turn into dust. That's my thinking there. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have better news for your investments and our investments in our bags, but
well, I think it's interesting because I do think there's something to be said for considering some of the tokens which are fully circulating, instead of always trying to hit the home run on and capturing the value in the private side, just going out into the market. Like, look, this would have been a fantastic buy no longer than like 8-9 months ago. It was sitting at 5 cents and had been for a long, long time. I suspect these tokens were continuously coming to market. More and more of the supply was circulating. At some point in time, it's a fantastic, important piece of infrastructure for Solana. 550 million NFTs have used it in some way in order to come to market. So, like, clearly value there. Would have been a huge win for someone if they were kind of actively watching for that. But I think a lot of people's attention kind of skews to the private thing, like, how do I get in before people, not realizing that there's actually some opportunity still in the liquid market as well. So I thought that'd be interesting to bring people's attention for today. Another thing that I'm thinking about personally, Legendary, we've got a few minutes left. Maybe you want to give a quick headline of what's going on with the MACHI token. Obviously, MACHI is the big trader, huge trader, sometimes controversial figure when it comes to collecting and trading in this market. But he's just launched a token on Blast. So do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main headline was the token is up 2x for pre-sale buyers. However, the interesting thing is how that token actually works together with baseline markets. We've also seen, the terms it's unruggable and other things being thrown around. And there's actually a pretty good breakdown that I'm going to share on screen by Thruster Intern, who basically is explaining the 3 mechanisms, the baseline market cheat sheet, it's what it's called, how that unruggability and up-only mechanics actually work. So what are the 3 things? The first one, unruggable. They have built a liquidity wall that they call baseline value, the BLV, which is basically a guaranteed price that's supported by reserve liquidity. And that's enough to buy the entire token supply float. So that makes sure that is the baseline price. It can't go under that. Then the second part of that, the up-only concept in the cheat sheet, is basically an automated rebalancing liquidity mechanism. That means the revenue from trading fees, from looping, that's the third part that we'll get to in a second, are used to buy the token and make sure that the token goes up in value. And then the third part, that's the interesting one for the holders, for the buyers, for the people bullish on it, is the land and loop concept, the afterburn, where you can use, you deposit B tokens as a collateral, and you can withdraw reserve assets for a small loan fee. So what does that mean? Essentially, you borrow ETH with MACHI tokens from the reserve liquidity, and you pull those tokens from the circulating supply. And the key is collateral is worth more than the borrowed amount, which always strengthens the pool's liquidity. That's the thinking here, and raises the next floor price. And again, these fees are also used as part of the up-only concept, as part of that automated rebalancing to make sure the price goes up. And obviously, if you're borrowing against your MACHI tokens, you could, use the ETH to buy more MACHI tokens and basically assume a leveraged position by doing that if you wanted to. So this is why they call it the lend and loop concept. And that's the 3 pillars on how the baseline token and that MACHI, how baseline market has built up that MACHI token specifically.
Well, that sounds pretty fun. Obviously sounds like a little bit of a Ponzi as well. What's the danger here? If people aggressively sell, the people who are lending and looping get wiped?
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
there's always a baseline that it can't go beneath.
Yeah, there's a baseline it can go beneath, but you can, over leverage yourself. If there's a lot of trading going on, a lot of trading fees are earned, and the automated rebalancing is pumping the price up, you might have someone who has a bigger holding waiting for that action to happen for basically periods in time with high trading volume and then dump on that. So the risks are very comparable to buying a traditional token. And I would say the risk that differs from that is obviously if you lend and loop and you assume a leveraged position can get wiped out.
Good stuff. Appreciate that little download, Legendary. Interesting to keep up with those things. Nice little 2x for the people who participated there, showing that, look, there are still reasonable opportunities in this market if you are staying alive to them. I know some people in our Discord were discussing this in advance. We just forgot to register in time, which is not good from us, but glad we were able to bring people the little download. Anyway, that is our show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, remember we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. We're live on X, we're live on YouTube, we're live on X video as well, Spotify and Apple Podcasts too, if you prefer to consume your media in that way. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much to my legendary co-host, Legendary. We also have Oxy and Funky up on stage. Kusho with that contribution up top. Thanks to Austin from Doodles for joining as well. And we will see you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.